Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be back on stage with you today. I'm so excited to see all of you. I want to give a special shout out to our planners who are here today. Welcome. We're excited to have you. You've had your hands full with the fastest growing state in the nation over the past decade, and we're incredibly grateful for what you're doing to make Utah such an incredible place to live. I think all of you know, as a former mayor, I love the opportunity I have to be here with you. Local government really is where the people are. You are closest to the people, and I know we kind of always say that, but I want you to know how much I mean it, and how much we honor what you do and what you've been able to accomplish. We're so excited. Every time I start to feel bad about anything that's happening in my life, I literally just talk to any of the 49 other governors that I work with, and I feel so much better about life and how lucky we are to live in this amazing place, in this amazing state. I know many of you saw there's only one kind of comprehensive state ranking that happens every few years, and it's U.S. News and World Report. They go through 72 independent categories. They rank all 50 states in those 72 categories, and then they add them all together and come up with just the best state. Not the best state for this or that, but just the best state. We've been high in the rankings before, but this year, for the first time in our state's history, we were the number one state in the United States, and that's something I think we should all be proud of. Now, that does not mean that we are without our challenges. We know that we do have challenges, and I so appreciate the partnerships that we have to work on these challenges. I appreciate the role that you all play in helping to solve the biggest challenges that are facing our state. If you had asked me last year what my biggest concern was, it definitely would have been water. Water is still a concern. I'm grateful for our legislative partners, some of whom are here today, for the incredible work that happened over the past couple legislative sessions, getting $1 billion in infrastructure money and water conservation money. I appreciate, again, the work that is happening at the municipal level to reduce the amount of water that is being used, and again, just to be smarter about the way we use this very precious resource. And so I feel like while that issue is not solved, we are certainly on a better trajectory than we have been in the past. It helps when you have record snowfall, and so we certainly appreciate that, and we're humbled and grateful for the water that we received this year. So people ask me all of the time, what is the next issue that keeps you up at night? And I think that many of you will agree with me that housing is that issue. And it's as you look at what's happened in our state and really across the nation, but especially in the Mountain West, that's where we've seen it most acutely over the past 5 years. This incredible increase in the price of housing is also unsustainable, and it's unsustainable for reasons that matter personally, I think, to each of us. I had my oldest get married, graduated from college in December, and you start to think about these things like, are they going to be able to afford to live here? Now, what's interesting is most of the Wasatch Front is experiencing something that people from rural Utah have experienced our entire lives, only for different reasons. When we were growing up, we knew that our kids and grandkids wouldn't be able to live near us because there weren't jobs, there weren't economic opportunities, and so we would export our kids, and we hated that. I remember my dad and my grandfather very distinctly having that conversation when I was a very young child, lamenting that our kids and grandkids wouldn't be able to live near us because there were no economic opportunities. Now I hear there are plenty of economic opportunities, but people lamenting, will our kids and grandkids be able to live near us because they can't afford to buy a home, right, or even rent in so many places. Now, I know of no other way to solve this. Actually, there are a couple other ways, but they're all bad ways to solve this problem than increasing supply. That's the only way from a purely economic standpoint to understand supply and demand. If you want to lower prices, you either have to reduce demand, which is what the Fed is doing by raising interest rates. That's the bad way to do it, right? Or you can increase supply. And so we have to be able to increase supply. Now, I recognize that what that means is it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on you. And I want to stand on this stage today to thank you for what you've done over the past couple years, the ways that you have responded, and you have responded. And I know it's not easy. I know the incentives don't line up perfectly. I know there's a lot of NIMBYism out there. The not in my backyard. We see it all the time. We all want housing for our kids and grandkids, just not where we can see it from our front door, right? We want it in somebody else's backyard. And most of you, almost all of you, have responded incredibly. You are doing things to increase supply, significant supply. In fact, Utah has been noticed as one of the national leaders in this category of increasing supply. And so please let me tell you how grateful we are for the work that you are doing. I appreciate our legislative partners as well. I know this is where kind of that state and local authority, sometimes we come to a head, and that's okay. It's okay to have these disagreements, and it's okay to push back. In fact, it's important to push back to make sure that the policies that do get passed at the state level actually work, that they're good for you, that they don't cause more harm. And again, you know better than the legislature, than the executive branch, what's happening in your communities. Now, sometimes, again, we've got to push a little bit too. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. Change is always hard, but we can do this in the right ways. And that's the thing I think that is most important. The thing I'm most proud of in Utah is our ability to collaborate and work together. Not just when we agree, but especially when we disagree. Now, you heard Mayor Silvestrini, and I so appreciate him, that as a chair of the National Governors Association, I selected an initiative. We get to do one. It's a bipartisan organization, all 50 governors. We always have a chair that's a Republican, a vice chair that's a Democrat, and then we switch the next year. And so right now, Governor Polis of Colorado, a Democrat, is my vice chair. We looked at lots of different ideas of what we could do, more traditional ideas. We were very focused on healthcare, reducing the cost of healthcare in our country, energy policy, critical minerals. We went through a list of things that we wanted to work on. Housing, again, a problem across the nation. And as we were having these debates and discussions about what we might decide to do for our initiative, it became very clear to me that we cannot solve the greatest problems facing our country if we hate each other. We just can't. We can't do it. And the direction that we are headed as a country, I'm very fearful, and this is not just hyperbole. It's not me trying to use fear at all. It's the exact opposite of that. But I talk to political scientists, researchers who do this for a living and are really good at it. And what they're telling me right now is that if we continue to divide ourselves as we're doing now in this hyper-partisan, toxic division that we are experiencing as a country, that we are headed for very, very dark days. The darkest days, like 1850s, 1860s dark days. We're seeing a rise in political violence across our country, even here in our great state, and this is something that should concern all of us. And again, it is paralyzing us as a nation, our inability to take on the most important issues. Not only that, but since we launched this initiative, we've had 4-star generals, people Mad Dog Maddox, some of the most important generals currently alive in our country today, seek us out and say, what you are doing isn't just about solving problems in our country, it's literally about global security. Because if the United States is not able to lead because we are so divided, that vacuum will be filled, and it will be filled by people like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. This is incredibly challenging. And the problem is, it's not going to be solved just by governors, although this is the initiative that I chose, Disagreeing Better. It's about every one of us in our communities, every one of us where we live, relearning something that we used to do very well in the United States of America, something I think we still mostly do well in Utah, and that is our ability to disagree better, our ability to disagree without hating each other, our ability to disagree without treating each other with contempt. Now, here's one thing that I think is very important about this initiative that I need you to know. This is not another civility initiative. Although civility is very important, and I so appreciate your willingness as an organization to speak up and stand up on issues of civility. Civility says we have to be nice and get along, which is very important. We should be nice, and we should get along. Disagreeing better is about actual disagreement. It's about healthy conflict. It's not about conflict avoidance. That is not helpful at all. It is about understanding that we don't have to sacrifice our own principles, the things that we believe in, our deeply held convictions, to accomplish what needs to be accomplished in this country. We should stand up for our convictions, but we can do it in a way that respects other people. And the miracle of all of this, the amazing thing is when we do that, when we treat each other with dignity and respect, other people are much more willing to listen to us. What's happening in our country today, especially amongst politicians, too many politicians have discovered that they can use fear and divisiveness to gain power and control. And far too often we fall for it as Americans. There is what political scientists call a perception gap. Okay, and this is the most dangerous thing impacting our country today. It's not about what Republicans think and Democrats think. It's about what Republicans think Democrats think, and what Democrats think Republicans think. It turns out if you actually survey and ask Republicans and Democrats what they believe on any different issue, guns, abortion, you name it, it turns out they're really not that far apart. But because of the media and social media and the way we emphasize the most extreme voices, the most divisive voices, right, we think we're much farther apart than we are. Now, this is why it's dangerous. If a Republican thinks that Democrats don't care about our country, hate our country, think that Democrats don't care about the Constitution, don't care about democratic norms, and are willing to violate democratic norms to get what they want, Republicans will say, well, if they're going to do that, then we have to do that as well. And the same happens on the other side. And you can see there's no end to that. I mean, there is an end to it, and the end is we shoot each other. That's the end of it. That's how this ends. If we don't pull our heads out, right? That's what's going to happen. And so we have to give people the dignity and the respect. We have to be curious and we have to be humble. And what happens, again, the magic is when we start having conversations and listening to each other and realizing we're not that far apart, we can actually get back to the art of persuasion. See, we've gotten away from that. I don't need to persuade you that I'm right. I just need to treat you as the enemy and make sure that people who believe what I believe understand how evil you are. And it's happening on the left, and it's happening on the right. Now, the good news is that Utah is different. I can tell you because we get approached all of the time. Every month, there are experts, researchers from all over the country, all over the world that are coming to Utah because they're fascinated by how weird we are, right? Let me rephrase that. They're fascinated by how normal we are and how weird everyone else has gotten, right? They can't understand how Utah is not acting quite like everyone else. And they're trying to figure out why that is. Now, I believe it's in our DNA. I believe it's who we are. We talk about the Utah way often, that this is just kind of what we do. We work together. The League of Cities and Towns and the Utah Association of Counties, they invite each other to their meetings, right? It's crazy. The legislative branch and the executive branch, we actually get together and work on stuff, not just during the legislative session, but year round, trying to figure out how we can solve the biggest problems. Republicans and Democrats, we actually work together. We don't agree on everything. And there are some profound disagreements, but we do try to solve problems together, and that's very unique. But here's the thing: we are starting to lose it a little bit here, and if we're not intentional about it, we haven't needed to be intentional about it because it just kind of happened organically. But we cannot take that for granted, and it's incumbent on all of us to make sure that we are doing our part to be humble, to be curious, to try to listen to other people, listen to others, understand, and not just attack people, attack ideas, but don't attack people and motivations unfairly. And I believe we can do this. I believe we have something special that the rest of the country desperately needs. All right. Last thing I want to say is that I feel so incredibly lucky to be the governor of this amazing state. to be able to be in the presence of so many great people like you. My hope is that as we push this initiative forward across the country, that it won't just be us, it won't just be me and Governor Polis and a few governors doing this, that all of you will take this on. I would love to see every mayor, every member of the city council to go back to your cities, your towns, to find somebody who you disagree with, somebody on the other side of the aisle, film a little cell phone video together talking about how, somebody you like who is different than you, who disagrees with you. Post it out there, and share with people around you. Share it with your families. You probably have family members that disagree with you. I'm guessing. Certainly, if you're an elected official, you have lots of people that disagree with you. So there's so many to choose from. It's amazing. I can tell you that again within families, the first video that Governor Polis and I did were, and hopefully some of you got to see it. It was about having conversations around the dinner table, and that your MAGA uncle and your woke niece can actually have a meal together without hating each other. I truly believe that is possible, and not only is it possible, it's the only way to save our great country. And I conclude with that. If you go back and look at the founders, and this is the month to do that, by the way, and I so appreciate the legislature passing a bill to celebrate September as Constitution and Founders Month, an opportunity for all of us to go back and remember, relearn again, share with our kids and our grandkids this incredible history, the founding of our great nation. If you look at those founders and what they said on this topic, it's truly remarkable. John Adams talked about kind of the natural man in all of us, and that without the political virtues of humility, which is something we don't hear as much about today, and some others, that we all become ravenous political beasts. That's in our nature. It's natural for us to hate each other and tear each other apart and kind of join our tribes. He said we have to work against that. In fact, Alexander Hamilton said that the reason they set up the government this way was to institutionalize that, to make sure he knew exactly how divisive we would be. So we put this incredible experiment in place where we divided power up so that no institution could get too powerful, right, to protect against that. But it was George Washington who preached constantly about the dangers of partisanship, and how if you get a chance, this month, I would go back and read his farewell address. I think it's incredible, but he specifically warned about the things that are happening today in our country. Now, I had the opportunity. I turned 48 years old in July. I had the opportunity with my wife to go to Philadelphia for my birthday, and she asked what I wanted to do, and all I wanted to do was go to the birthplace of our country, the birthplace of the Constitution, and to be in that room where the Constitution was debated, where this form of government was founded. And there's an anecdote that comes out of that. I'm sure that you've all heard it, but George Washington was sitting in a chair as he was overseeing these proceedings, and an aged Benjamin Franklin was in the back of the room, and every day when George Washington would stand up, he would look at that chair, and on the back of the chair, and by the way, the chair is still there today. I got to see it. There's kind of a half sun over a landscape carved into the back of the chair. And at the end of the proceedings, when it was all said and done, Benjamin Franklin said, "I've been looking at that chair and trying to decide if it was a rising sun or a setting sun. Was the sun coming up or going down?" He said, "I couldn't tell. But now that we have completed this, now that we have this framework, this new government, this new constitution," he said, I can tell you today that it is a rising sun." Now, the question for us, for all of us, is it a rising sun today or is it a setting sun? And the question I would ask you, are you sunrisers or are you sunsetters? Are you builders or destroyers? I believe Utah is a state of builders. I believe we are a state of sunrisers. I believe that our best days still lie ahead, but not if we hate our fellow Americans. And so, my friends, I love you. I'm so grateful for the sacrifices that you are making for our state. It is hard to serve in local government. It is hard. I get asked all the time, how is it being governor? I'm like, it's hard. But you know what was harder? Being the mayor of a small town. Yeah, it was harder. I got a call 2 in the morning because a neighbor's dog is barking. I don't get those calls as governor now. That's nice. Mike Maurer gets those calls for me. But you get those calls and you take those calls and you're doing this not because it's fun, not because it's glamorous, not because it pays well. Doing it because you love your community, you love our state, you are sunrisers, and we need you now more than ever. God bless you. Keep up this great work. Thank you.